Welcome to the Athletes in Motion podcast, from race to recovery, with your hosts, Tom Riegel and Kenny Bailey.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Kenny. How are you?
I am fantastic because we have a guest this year, our first guest of the year, Alex Hildebrandt. Alex, welcome.
Yeah.
Hello, thank you. First time, long time.
There you go. So Alex is not only a dynamic personal trainer at Lifetime, but he also happens to be a triathlete who has qualified for Worlds more than one occasion.
Nice.
He's kind of a big deal. So, Alex, welcome to the program. We appreciate you coming on. We were trying to focus our programs on sort of, especially during the winter, on kind of what people need to be preparing for over the winter to get ready for their season for triathlon. So from a kind of a strength and conditioning perspective, all that good stuff. But before we get going down that path, tell us a little about yourself. So have you always been a triathlete? Did you start out as like a soccer player when you were 7 and then got on a bike and never got off? What's the story?
Man, it's not a great story. I started as a baseball player who only liked to run 90 feet. And a swimmer who only liked to swim 50s and 100s. Anything further than 100, forget it. I would false start and get disqualified. And then was going to play baseball in college, tore my rotator cuff, my labrum, MCL, meniscus, and then my wife's aunt was like, oh, you should try triathlons. I'm like, that sounds like a lot of running and swimming, and I'm not good at that. But here we are, like, 12, 13, 14 years later and still doing it. So
worked. Did you tear everything all at once, or was that just over the series? Tore meniscus and a labrum? Like, that must have been one hell of a slide.
Yeah. It was within a 1 month span. I
No
did my
kidding.
shoulder first, and then at a baseball tournament, slid into second base. Knee got stuck in the mud, and that was the end of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
So here we are.
It put you on a different path.
Yeah. Maybe we won. I don't remember.
That's funny.
So too long ago.
So, I think we skipped a big chunk there. Like, you went from, I just started in triathlons to now, I'm like going to Worlds. At what point did that move from, hey, this is kind of fun, to like, hey, I think I may be good at this? Like,
Yeah, I did my very first half Ironman 2013-ish, 70.3 Muncie, and I was one of the last people to finish the race. Like, they were cleaning up transition as I was finishing, and I was like, I am not spending that much time out here ever again. So I got a coach, and then slowly started taking it more and more seriously. And then, I don't know, just a lot of consistency, years of dedication to it, and finally I started to enjoy running somewhat. And that's probably now my best discipline now. So
that's cool.
Just a lot of hard work.
Two things that popped out, or what you just said, was you got a coach and consistency.
Yeah.
Those are the things I harp on the most, is the consistency part of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So of the 3 disciplines, which one is your favorite?
Definitely not the swim. That becomes the most.
The first 50 maybe is okay.
Yeah, that comes the most natural to me, so I don't train it as much. Hopefully my coach doesn't listen to this. The bike I have a love-hate relationship with. I like going fast. I like going hard on the bike, but at the same time, there's always that in the back of my head, hey, you still have to run 13.1 miles. Don't go too hard. And the run has slowly become what I enjoy suffering the most in, or what I tolerate suffering the most in.
That's funny. So as so you're chilling out in Tri-land, you're doing all sorts of great stuff, and then all of a sudden you decided, I think I want to be a personal trainer. Or how did that personal trainer journey start?
Yeah, my wife and I moved to San Diego. Oh man, 5-6
terrible
years
place
ago.
to move for a triathlete. My God, how did you?
Real terrible.
Oh my gosh.
And then around the same time, my grandfather passed away, and it was some of that old man wisdom. It's like, do something you love. It's like not working. So I was spending most of my time training anyway. So I thought, why not get my master's in kinesiology and sports management, and then got my CSCS and USA weightlifting and all the other certifications, and started training, working in a gym in San Diego, and then transitioned to the university setting for 2 years while we were in Boulder. And then once we had our daughter, that started to eat into time with my daughter, being just at the beck and call of college football. And then we moved here and joined back up with Lifetime, and
there you go.
Here we are a year later.
So you're San Diego to Boulder, and now you're doing Chattanooga. So pretty much, the top 5 triathlon cities you decided to just bounce.
So, and most of my training's done inside, so it's great. Really take advantage of my surroundings.
There you go. So, so thank you for joining, and thanks for the background. So, we have a wide variety of people that watch the program. Everything from mainly people that are getting started on the journey of triathlon and just discovering it, for anything from a sprint distance to they're going to be their first half to their first full. When you have a client that comes in and said, "Hey, I think I'm going to do a triathlon," or you're working with clients right now that are trying to get faster or better, how do you set up that kind of conversation, and then what do you look for this type of year? So we're in January, getting into actually we're in February. What am I talking about? So
already,
dang, that month just went by. How do you start preparing folks for that season?
Yeah, good question. So I think the first thing is this their first one? Do they have experience doing endurance races? Like you asked me, are they grew up running, grew up swimming, grew up cycling? Like, what's their background? And then going from there, if they're brand new, easing them into the strength and conditioning. This time of year, season, depending when your first race is, like mine hopefully will be Puerto Rico, and that's March. So
wow,
that's, nice. 6 weeks away. So time to start training or weight training specifically has changed for me. But if they're not racing till Chattanooga, that's still 3 months away. So they can still have a proper kind of off season, quote unquote, where we can work more hypertrophy, start preparing the muscles for heavier loads and whatever the demands are, and then slowly add in more of a strength phase, and then we move into more sports specific or race specific training. So it all starts with what their experience level is, how trained they are.
So so let's just assume everyone's got sort of, your summer, fall kind of stuff, or spring, May, June, July, August kind of thing. Where do you see the deficit at? Is it, I'm going to guess, maybe I'm just applying kind of my weakness, but is it around core training that you generally see that is it balance? Is it, nobody trains leg day, or what do you, where do you see sort of, as you kind of see the theme of people coming in, where do you generally have to start working? Is it small muscles?
I generally start bigger muscles. Legs feed the wolf, so I'll start with the legs.
Nice.
Whether that's squats, deadlifts, maybe, depending if they have any back concerns or injuries in the past. If they have Olympic weightlifting, I'd prefer to do cleans over deadlifts, because then we're getting some power development there. But I always start with the legs, and then slowly start adding in unilateral work to work on those smaller stabilizing muscles, and then obviously core work. As soon as we get later into the race, if our core starts to break down, then that just leads into biomechanical problems, and our stride goes, so I don't know if you can curse on the show, goes to hell.
Hey, easy there, fella.
Yeah.
Easy.
So the core is important, but I'll generally start with legs, and then that becomes more accessory work that we do trickled in near the end of the lift.
So it always seems that triathletes in general only go in one direction, right?
Yeah.
We're running, cycling, even swimming in one direction for lateral movements and stability on that. What do you suggest for athletes to work on in that case? We're notoriously bad at that.
Yeah, we do really well moving forward.
Maybe.
One plane of motion.
Some of us. Yeah.
Some of us.
Falling forward. Anything.
controlled falling. That's
Yes.
what I call it.
Yeah.
Lateral movements or even rotational movements
Yeah.
are a big part of it. So lateral lunges, skaters, whether you turn that into like more of a plyometric, if the individual is adept at that type of movement, skaters to work on power development there. Any rotational work, again, going back to the core, if we can bulletproof the core, then that will go a long way in maintaining our form and technique as that race gets longer and longer.
Yeah.
So lateral movements are a big part of my training. I do that more as like unilateral work, as secondary work after I do a primary squat, deadlift, clean, and then trickle into that as the workout goes on.
Cool.
So this is going to be a dumb question, but what is it about the leg work that you're looking for? Is it the power on the bike? Is it the power on the run? Is it the push off? Excuse me. Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't help on the swim a whole lot. So, or does it?
No. I mean, it can. It depends on how you swim, I guess. If you take the first 100, 200, 300 meters out strong, then that kick's important. And getting out of the water and finishing strong on the swim to kind of wake the legs up as we head into transition. Seems like transitions now are quarter mile away, and so we gotta swim or run further. So waking the legs up is important in the swim, but primarily squats, anything to activate the glutes. Those are going to be our primary mover in everything we do. So wake up the glutes. So squats, I'll do some type of warm up with bands, whether that's like lateral shuffles, band kickbacks, anything to start activating the glutes. And then we get into like the bigger primary lifts. So squats are just kind of the biggest bang for your buck. I like doing front squats because now I don't love doing 100 sit-ups. So if I can do front squats and force us to work our core while also training the legs, that also helps take some of the pressure off our back. So if anyone has back problems, I'll try and work more front squats with them.
I understand hex deadlifts tend to be you like those? What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I probably do those once or twice a week with a lot of my clients. It's easier on the lower back. Similar movement to a squat, but we're still targeting similar movements that we would in the deadlift. I just like that movement more than RDLs or conventional. It just seems to be safer for individuals, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So run me through sort of, so if I have a race in August, right? And you're saying that you want to have more sort of, is it heavier weights, lower reps now? Do you want kind of, and then as it progresses into the season, Tom's he's going to kill me probably by May with the length of running and swimming and cycling I have to do. Yeah. Like, how do you taper it down then? And then do you continue to do the legs, or do you focus on core, or is there a pattern or a sine wave, if you will?
Yeah. So I kind of reverse engineer it from, I think you guys last week or your last episode talked about how you plan your season. So right, if you find your A race, kind of reverse engineer your strength training from that A race. So generally I break the off season into two phases, one focusing on like hypertrophy specific rep ranges. So like 6 to 12 reps that can last anywhere 4 to 6 weeks. And then from there we transition generally to the second off season phase. That's more of a strength phase where now we're just building overall muscular strength. Depending on how much time you have, that can be 4 to 8 weeks long. Then I get into the preseason stuff, and that's, for me, I think more fun because that's where we start doing more explosive stuff with power and starting to convert some of that strength that we built in the or in the off season into more explosiveness stuff. So when we get on the bike or on the run, and we got little kickers, got some hills, like the legs are ready for it. And then that kind of goes till we start truly competing into the season. Then it's kind of back to more of a hypertrophy or muscular endurance type of training, that's going to be more sport specific. So we want to maintain that strength throughout the entire season. If we start to lose some of that strength, then most likely we're going to see some declines in our overall performance. So yes, now is a good time. If you're not, I think you're racing in August, right? So now is a good time for you to be lifting heavier, build up that
He loves
build
to
up
hear
that
that.
strength. Yeah.
Okay.
Twist his arm.
Twist his arm, yeah.
It doesn't have to be like max strength, but somewhere between like 1 to 5 reps. I generally give clients a rep range in there. So like 2 to 4 reps. If you hit 2 reps, great. We'll stay at that weight. If you hit 4 reps, okay, we'll add a little more weight. And it's just a way for us to see on that day, are we moving the bar well? Is the weight too light? Is it too heavy? Is the stress from previous training lows starting to accumulate? And now we need to adjust the weight. Not every day is going to be the same for strength training as it is for swim, bike, and run. So I like giving that kind of rep range to give people a wiggle room or some type of guidance to work within in each phase.
Nice. And I think it's important to talk about the fact that we always think about weight training, and I'm taking it from like the triathlete view of not strength training, and not having the background in that, of that their thinking is always high reps. A lot of the athletes I talk to were doing the 15 reps, and they're doing 3 sets of 15, and more on the endurance side of things, which they don't actually need to do, and it's not building muscle in the when you talk about the hypertrophy and lifting the bigger weights at the shorter reps. Can you talk a little bit more about what actually happens in those 2 phases?
Yeah, so hypertrophy, we're like building the size of the muscle. More of the strength phase is going to be more, for me, I think it's about building like more of the density within it. Muscular endurance, that I see that a lot, where people are like, oh, I'm an endurance athlete, I just should be doing endurance type of reps, 12 plus reps for everything I do, because that's going to be sport specific. Yes, but that can also potentially lead us to creating imbalances, or we're not allowing us to recruit our muscle fibers the way we should be. We could start moving from type 1 to type 2, or type 2 to type 1, and we start neglecting the recruitment of the entire muscle, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the surprising thing that you said, I guess, is when you said, I want explosive movements when you, and I guess I never, because I'm that old school guy, right? You never say explosive in a triathlon, right? There's no such thing, you just sort of, right. And then, but what you're saying is that what provides you like those kickers on the hills, or, when you got a grade, that explosive movement is what's the thing that's going to get you over there versus, like you said, kind of slow and low, kind of, slow cook it. So that's surprising.
I compare it a lot to like bike workouts. People aren't surprised when they see their bike efforts, maybe 15, 20-second efforts at 120% of their FTP. It's the same thing, right? We're still generating power quickly. The power movements and the strength, it's the same thing, and it's only going to help build upon or create that muscle recruitment. So when you have those short 120% FTP bursts, the muscles know what to do and how to recruit those.
Okay.
So that's how I generally compare it to endurance athletes.
Nice.
So you mentioned kind of one common mistake, which is, you tend to do 12 to 15 reps. Are there other mistakes that you see people, like when you walk in, say, well, why are you doing that? Or any thoughts of, I know, maybe the top 3. Well, the top 3, like, go to, I tend to get injured fast, so I try to, not do stupid things, but I continue to do stupid things. So
I think one, and I think we're all
imbalance
at fault of this, is not taking time to properly warm up. Any type of mobility.
That's what the first 5 miles are for in a bike ride. That's the warm up.
Right, exactly.
So,
hammered first 5 miles of bike.
Exactly.
As hard as we can.
Yeah.
So I think whether that's strength training, swimming, biking, running, like a proper some type of mobility warm up, band warm up to activate the muscles.
Yeah.
Generally, like if people are short on time and I'm at fault of this too at times, like I'll just jump into it because it's not sexy. It's somewhat monotonous, and let's just get to the fun stuff of lifting heavy weights. I would say the second one is maybe not having a plan to follow when it comes to strength training. We have plans for swim, bike, run. Why not for strength training? Why kind of go in? And I see a lot of people in the gym spend 2+ hours there, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, why are we still here? That's not to say like don't take the proper rest between sets, but I think a lot of time we show up and we kind of aimlessly wander around like, oh, let's do some back, and then, oh, let's do some leg press, and like just take some time to think about it so you can have more time to do the swim, bike, and run.
Yeah.
And then, it's not addressing any imbalances that you may have. I have imbalances in my legs from how I sit on the saddle. So my right leg, I put out more power than my left. So in my strength training, I know I need to spend more time doing unilateral work after I do my compound movement, so I can hopefully address that and then limit the potential risk of injury.
So I've never heard anybody say that I swim too fast. So when it comes to, I don't know, let's just slow that down. I'm just swimming too fast.
Pull back on the race.
Like, pull back on that. All right, easy there, pal.
Back off.
So I think a lot of folks, yourself included, Alex, swim is not their favorite kind of discipline. When it comes to that area specifically, what do you look for sort of a strength and training program to try to get a little bit more speed or more power, or maybe just less heart rate, where you feel like I know it's that beautiful balance between form counts. Obviously, form counts in there, but if I wanted to get sort of a stronger stroke, what would you recommend on those?
Bulletproofing the shoulders to start, band work for rotator cuff, internal, external rotations, working on kind of the lat recruitment, basically break down the freestyle stroke and work that process. It's not sexy either. And it gets monotonous, but as someone who has bad shoulders, again, I think that's also where taking the time to properly warm up, to activate those shoulders before I get in the water or I start a race. That way, the first 500 meters, my shoulders aren't yelling at me like, oh, this is harder than I was expecting. And I think a lot of that just goes with some type of shoulder maintenance program with bands, or 2.5 pound weights. Like, you don't have to go heavy, just enough to like make sure we're.
So what specifically,
solid.
So when you get to a race, you probably do you have a band with you to try to get those shoulders to warm up? So what specifically do you do?
I triple check everything too many times. So my wife says, she's like, it hasn't moved. It's still there. After I set everything up, I'll usually take a band. I don't run before anything like that. If I have a band with me, I'll do some bands, try and like anchor it to a tree. If you're fortunate enough to like be close to the race venue with a hotel or Airbnb, go back and like anchor it on a door or a wall or somewhere just to start opening up the chest, the shoulders, get some recruitment in the shoulders going. Then I'll start warming up the legs, get the last few carbs in and start. But it's more, for me, it's like, oh, is everything still where I left it? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'll go to the swim start. I usually, if the races allow first, like a warm up swim, I don't do that. I'll
I don't
but
you're doing a
do
warm
stuff
up
with the bands, do that. I just, if I don't have to get cold 20 minutes before I start, I'm not getting in the water.
And that activation is key. I laugh at the amount of athletes at the race that are doing nothing to warm up before even the longer races. You're just kind of like, you're looking at them like the professional athletes football players, if you get to a game ahead of time, they're out there for an hour or more doing the simple stuff, doing the arm little circles and these big guys doing these little tiny movements that we always used to laugh about in gym class, right? And you watch them do this for like an hour to get all the way up just to play a game that they're short bursts, right? And then they're on the sidelines, and then short bursts and they're on the sidelines, and you just go, we're doing this not as a professional. We're doing it for fun. It costs us way more money than we want to admit. And yet, we don't have the luxury of a training room and, people that are going to take care of us and everything else. And we destroy ourselves. We constantly get out there without warming up and go through it, and we don't understand why we didn't improve.
Why we're hurt, and now we got to go see the doctor.
Yeah, it's like, I ran out of visits to the chiropractor, and my insurance plan, so now I can't go, and or PT or whatever it is. So it's good to hear you talk about that fact that that's huge, and it doesn't take very much time before the race. We're nervous energy anyway, so take a band with you everywhere.
Yeah, doesn't take much effort. You could do it 10 minutes before you start and be good.
Yeah.
I joke with my friends, like, I don't get in the water to swim because I'll do the bands, but like, I also got only 500 good meters in me. I'm not going to waste it beforehand.
I'm with you on that 100
warming up.
So that's where I'll do the band work, or that's at least what I've told myself.
Yeah, there you go. Cool. Does how do you approach, like, you got a 23-year-old or you've got a 53-year-old when they come to you? I mean, do you treat them the same, or is it based off of ability, or do you try to do you have to take in consideration age, or is it just a long history of injuries is generally what most older people have versus younger people, or their recovery is maybe longer, right, at 53 than they are at 23? Do you adjust that?
How they recover, or how we program?
How you program, or to get prepped for their kind of preseason stuff.
Yeah, generally, like, if it's after a season, I generally have like a transition phase where it's like, take 2 to 4 weeks to just do what feels good. You don't need to rush back into the weight room with me. A lot of it more is like, let's do light mobility work, do some light stretching, light work. Just if the body feels ready to lift, then we'll lift, but it won't be heavy. It's just like, get some type of general movement, whether it's body weight or light kettlebell or dumbbells. And then, it's generally, I have that conversation at the beginning while we're warming up. How's the body feel today? What hurts? What doesn't hurt? Is there something lingering from the race? Did something creep up? What can we do to speed that recovery process up? Maybe we don't touch a weight. Maybe it's more time to just work on stretching, mobility. Maybe it's more of an educational time where how can we start implementing things for before or after the race, or we talk nutrition, or a lot of it is outside of the weight room that we can do to better prepare ourselves or prep for recovery.
And that goes no matter if you're 20 or 50. Is that?
Yeah. I take the same approach with myself as I do with some of my clients that are older than me. It's what's the body need?
Okay.
If the body needs more time to recover, then we're not touching weights. We'll do more lightweight stuff. We don't need to rush into it. Especially if it's an A race or a B race or C race and we're training through it, then it's not one session isn't going to make or break your strength training program.
How often during the week do you do that then? Do you at least 3 days a week of them doing strength training? What's your recommended sort of
off season? Again, it's kind of preference. Off season, I generally do 3 or 4 days. As I now start doing more and more time on the bike and on the road for running or the treadmill, I try and maintain at least 2 days a week, and they're more full body focused days. If we're like starting our taper, then maybe 1 day, and it's like light, more activation type of work. But I do better when I still train 2 or 3 days a week.
Okay.
Not everybody does it, but that's where you got to know the signals your body's sending you. And all the devices we have now tell us like how well we sleep.
No kidding.
How recovered we are. Like, use that data, but also use it to how you feel. Like, oh yeah, okay, I feel that's spot on. My Aura ring or Whoop is saying I didn't sleep well. Then take it easy.
Yeah.
So Tom puts in a schedule for me. He says I need to swim on a Tuesday as well as doing strength training. Which one do I do first?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
I would say just make sure you give yourself time, like give a 1, 2, 3 hour break between to fully like replenish.
So don't break
proper nutrition in. Yeah. Not for like swim and lift, because they're two different type of exercises. One's anabolic in nature, one's catabolic. If we do them too close to each other and we're a trained individual, it's going to send mixed signals to the body.
What's catabolic?
It's like breaking things down, right?
Oh, okay.
Anabolic, we're building stuff up. Anabolic steroids. Catabolic is more going to be like that's swim, bike, run. It's breaking everything down. So if you do them too close together, the body's going to send mixed signals, and it's not going to know which one to prioritize. If it's an untrained individual, they can get away with doing both relatively close together, but as they become more trained, they won't be able to, or they'll plateau, or if that answered your question.
Yeah. I mean, my first assumption is I don't want to break down form, so I'll probably swim first and then do the lifting later or do I swim sore because
I tend to program no upper body heavy stuff on swim days.
Yeah.
So you're not working, I mean, not heavy stuff. So I tend to mix and match what he's actually working on as it comes along, just to go easier on certain things and maybe spend more time on legs because he's not powering legs. Unless we're trying to build muscle and build strength on that, then maybe we'll hammer legs on a bike day, or something along those lines. And then it depends on if we're trying to build muscle. If we're trying to build muscle, lift first. If we're getting more race specific, then I'll have him lift after and run first, because I don't want him to be injured on the run and focus on that endurance portion of it. That's how I tended to look at my programming.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I know my training, just because I'm at the gym by 5 a.m., generally I'm lifting before I get home to bike or run. So I think some of it is just like what makes sense with each individual's schedule, obviously.
Totally.
But I would agree where, like, let's not, if the primary focus, or if we're in season and the primary focus is swim, bike, run, let's not take away from the gains we need to make on swim, bike, and run by lifting.
Yeah. Is it easier for you to get somebody to build up muscle, or is it which is harder, somebody to try to gain weight or gain muscle, or somebody that's used to lifting all the time and you need to like detune them down because they go for the pump, that kind of thing? Or is it easier to have that experience and then detune it, or would you rather mold somebody from the ground up to get rid of like habits that may have formed?
I don't have a preference either way. I think the individual who is more trained will see results, as long as, again, this is assuming nutrition is on point. If nutrition is on point, then the trained individual will see results quicker than the non-trained one. Now, taking someone new who hasn't had a whole lot of experience with lifting, you can, like you said, mold them into the way
proper
of
form
endurance
and all that.
athletes. Yeah. And we can start catering from a beginning where maybe they don't have a preconceived notion of like, this is what lifting should be. So you can kind of skip some steps where you don't have to like unteach them, not bad habits, but like different way of looking at their strength training.
Okay.
You could tell this podcast is really Kenny's therapy session.
Yeah, it really is. That's all my podcasts are just therapy.
If you haven't noticed that yet.
So,
that's why we do this.
Let's say the average individual
Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. It's a giant therapy session. So when it comes to, we brushed on nutrition, but not very much. When it comes to nutrition, before the workouts, where do you see the, is it is it people don't get enough nutrition before the workout, or they think, well, I just did a great workout, so I'm going to go eat chicken wings, or is it both, or where do you see the sort of the areas that they need to look out for?
I would probably see it more like probably in the sense of like, oh, I just did a 3-hour bike ride.
Mm-hmm.
I'll eat whatever I want to eat because I just worked out for 3 hours, so I need all the food. Mm. Sure, there's some truth to that. As long as we're getting the proper protein. And I'm not one who like counts macros, but as long as we're getting close to the proper protein, carbohydrates, fats, usually it's on those longer days people tend to derail themselves because then all of a sudden a nice beer sounds good and a pizza sounds good because Zwift told me I burned 8 pieces of pizza, so why not go have a piece of pizza? Yeah. So I would say it's probably after training tends to be harder. I do a lot of my training. I wouldn't call it fasted necessarily, but just I don't love to eat before I get on the bike or before I run.
I see. Sometimes
you have to train your gut to take on the proper carbohydrates during a race. But I would say usually it's after the fact. That's when I'm like, oh, it's time to eat. I didn't eat beforehand and I just burned 1,000 calories. I'm in a big caloric deficit. I can get away with whatever I want right now. And maybe there's some truth to that into the middle of the season or if your training's really ramped up. But right now where everyone probably is in the season, don't do it.
Don't do it. Do you have I know like when I'm in the middle of a race and I want to finish this thing, I have sort of like a food dream, like what I'm going to eat when I get done, like after a race. Do you have like what's your go-to sort of food dream you have when you're, 6 miles into the run, you got a few to go, like I can't wait to get done because I can have this. Is there something that, like what's your prize?
Usually when I'm swimming, I'm thinking about just getting out of the water and biking. And then I'm on the bike and I think about, let me just run. Yeah. And then I'm on the run and I'm like, man, I'd really like a beer right now. And I don't know when Ironman stopped giving away beer, real beer at races. Yeah. I like athletic beer or athletic brewing.
Yeah.
They became a sponsor. It doesn't hit the same way. I don't eat. It's hard for me to want to eat after having a bunch of gels.
Yeah.
During a race.
Totally understand.
So usually it's a couple beers or margaritas, and then 3 hours later I'll be like, oh, okay, where's that pizza?
Yeah.
But usually it's a beer first.
Nice.
So you race for the beer.
Race for the beer. Tom, do you have one? What's the?
I used to like a big steak and a glass of wine, red wine. That was like I can eat afterwards. I can eat afterwards. I stopped that a little bit as I got older because I found actually having the alcohol made for a harder recovery. So now that I'm much older, I kind of taper off that a little bit. Yeah, much older. But I do like to eat probably within 30 minutes. I try to get something in my system right away because then I start to perk back up. When I did Lake Placid this summer, my sister-in-law ran off to one of the restaurants and got me 2 double patty burgers.
Nice.
And we got back to the house and I scarfed one. I took a shower and I scarfed the second one, and I was perfect. Right.
How many carbohydrates do you intake on the bike? A lot.
A lot.
You seem to have an iron stomach.
I do really well with that.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere around 1,000 calories an hour, or 1,000 grams of carbohydrate per hour. That's what we're shooting for. So I eat a lot on it, and I like real foods. The longer the race, the more real foods I need to have. I need to have boiled potatoes, yams, stuff like that actually settles a little bit better in my stomach. If I just do all gels, I kind of fall apart on the run.
Is that in like half Ironmans you're doing that, or is that like the full distance? Full distance.
Half Iron, I might stick some potatoes on the bike. and have them.
Where do you put those?
Oh, on the bike. I just stick them in the little bento
Yeah.
box. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a little spoon. They're mashed potatoes, actually.
Yeah.
He's just
And then I
the
tend
sun
to mix
warms
in,
them up.
Yeah, a little tailwind, so you can mix up quite a bit of tailwind for liquid carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So between that and just having a little bit, it's not like I'm having a full pound of potatoes or anything.
A
I'm
baked
having, like,
potato with you.
yeah. I'm like, hey, the little small ones cut in half.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get maybe 5 or 6 of those at most.
Sure.
It just adds for a little flavor change.
He asks for sour cream when he gets to the aid station.
Chives. I actually asked for
Chives and bacon.
Which
Yeah.
happen to be sharp
Definitely
cheddar.
bacon.
There you go. That's funny. So, Alex, what does your race season look like this year? What's 2025 shaping up to be?
Hopefully Puerto Rico in March. I think that's like March 15th, 16th. That's all dependent on my wife. My wife is pregnant with our second child. She's due first week in April. So right now she's given me the green light to do Puerto Rico. That's 3 weeks before. So fingers crossed, Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. If that goes well and I qualify for Worlds, then I'll probably shut things down. I'd like to do Chattanooga again. I was having a good race there, but then got a flat tire 8 miles from the finish last year. So that kind of derailed the day there. So Puerto Rico, probably Chattanooga, and then it depends on Worlds. So if I qualify for Worlds again, I'll probably try and do a September race or a late August race, and then go to Spain for Worlds.
When is Worlds?
November.
Okay.
November 15th, 14th, something around there. So I'd like to do a fall race regardless. I'd like to do Augusta. I've never done 70.3 Augusta. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to do that. Maybe Louisville. I don't know when that is in August, but maybe 17th.
We're doing.
You have a red star on it.
Yeah.
Come join us.
Yeah, it's a red star race.
Maybe that. So it all depends on Puerto Rico. If I get a spot at Puerto Rico, then we'll shut things down till August at least for races. I like doing the shorter races. Sometimes I feel like my coach probably gets a little frustrated because then it turns into like, hey, we were supposed to do a 3-hour bike ride, but you went and did a sprint. We're still going to do the extra 2 hours, right? So it's like, yes, fine, we'll get back on the bike. But I think he knows I also do well racing myself into shape as well. That was the nice thing about San Diego. Season started early there. So yeah, I think Puerto Rico, Chattanooga, a August, September race, and then Spain.
Very cool.
Hopefully.
Nice.
So, yeah.
How are you feeling for March right now?
Like it's coming quick. I had a good race there last year. I do well in the heat, I've discovered, so that didn't bother me. The bike's pretty flat. The run has like one steep hill you kind of do twice each lap, but otherwise it's pretty flat. So it suited me well last year. I was probably in a little better shape at this point last year than where I currently am, but I don't know. We'll see. Just got to show up and race.
Well, you also, you're racing smarter than you did last year, right? Because you know what you developed and what you learned, right? Well, you hope anyway. You know the course. It's
we'll
not.
Find out. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm not going in blind to the race this year.
Yeah.
Or naive. I know I handle heat well now, and the humidity didn't bother me. So I think I just know the course better, or know when I could push it or not. And Chattanooga, I don't know. It sounds like they maybe changed the course again. So
yeah, it's a little weird.
Not for the 70.3.
Oh no,
they're back to the original course, the original bike for that. They've changed it for the long course for the full distance in September, and they're probably going to be that way because I think the folks down in Georgia, that one nice section down there, I think it comes down to the fact that a full distance down there just takes it just blocks the roads for too long.
Too long. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what it's coming down to. And I don't have any insider knowledge on that. It's just I know for the 70.3 they are back to that original course.
The original course.
Yeah. So the one loop.
Yeah.
So.
And it was good until I thought Chattanooga is a good course until maybe the last 12 miles, and then you kind of go through like a couple small towns, and traffic starts weaving in to you as well, and it gets
that's not fun.
tight. The run course I liked. I think going out by the boathouse there, it gets congested on your second lap just with everybody on that path, but once you get through there, it's a nice. I like running over the bridges and people yelling at you, so you gotta look. Spry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this doesn't hurt at all.
Look at me. Out of a high shot. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Touch this sign to get good luck. Get out of my way, kid. I gotta finish this thing. So that's funny.
What about you guys? Anything other than Louisville? Any other race? Louisville.
Whatever Tom tells me.
Yeah.
So
I'll probably do some sprints. I'll be at the Nashville, Music City, and Chattanooga's waterfront I'll probably do those sprints because they're fun. I'm going to be at them anyway, so I'll be hanging out. That'll be good. And then Louisville's it for me for my A race. That would be it. And I don't know what else I'll throw in. Maybe a trail run or something else in the fall, but we'll see. But you got a crazy spring and summer, so we'll see what I can fit in.
Yeah.
Same thing. I think I'll just do a couple sprints, then do Louisville, and then I got this schmancy new gravel bike. I'd actually want to get on some gravel courses in the back half of the year.
I haven't heard about that. Tell me more about it.
Oh my God.
I've heard about it. You see the pictures. I'm zooming in.
I'm surprised you didn't ride it yesterday.
I know I should have, but I don't know. So on top of all that, I understand you're also part of Lifetime started a run club. Do you want to talk a little about that?
Oh yeah.
Yes, we started a run club right in the middle of winter, so nice and cold time. So now that it's warming up, more and more people are showing up, so we meet at Lifetime, 7 a.m. Sunday morning. Recently, we've been doing really a 5K focused route. This past weekend, there was maybe 4 or 5 of us who went about 5 miles, so it's kind of dependent on who shows up. It's open to all abilities and pace levels. We've got another trainer who also is having to run because he's in the military and he's got to pass that PT test, so it's forcing him to run, so that's good. So he's kind of also being a group leader for kind of that second pack, but it's open to members, non-members, all is welcome. We just want to get the community running together.
Nice.
Yeah, cool. And it's nice to be able to run with a group of folks, right? It gives you motivation. It allows you to you kind of forget the miles you're on and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Some of my best running was in San Diego when I was running with my run group there, and a lot of them were better runners than me, and so it forces you to just kind of get comfortable running faster. That's when I really started to pick up more track workouts, and you can become a lot better runner by just forcing yourself to run with other people.
Totally. Yeah.
And get off the treadmill.
Get off the treadmill, So that's Sunday mornings at what time?
Sunday morning, 7 a.m.
7 a.m. at the Franklin
Lifetime. Yep. Yeah. We start running at 7, so show up a little early.
There you go.
Yeah. You're moving at 7, so don't show up at 7.
Yeah.
Don't show up. Yeah.
Not waiting for you.
Yeah.
No.
And hey, I brought my dog last time, so that was kind of fun. So
nice.
A little furry critter got a chance to get a run too. So it's kind of fun. Well, Alex, we appreciate your time today, and we're excited. We hopefully want to catch up with you again in the next few months, see how your race went. Also, kind of give us some, mid season pacing, sort of where people should be at, what we deal with having to work around some injuries. How do we do that as people start, if they start getting nagging sort of aches and sores, or how can they kind of work around those things? It'd be kind of fun to get that. But we appreciate your time today.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for being on. Thanks everybody for all your comments and your 5 stars, thumbs up. Give us lots of reviews. If you've got any comments that aren't worth 5 stars or all the thumbs up, let us know. Hey, we want to get better at this, and we appreciate all of that. That helps the algorithm and gets this out to more and more people. So we appreciate everybody listening. So Alex and Kenny, thanks guys, appreciate it. Catch you on the next one.